I just like to start from the beginning. How was it like for you to grow up in the spotlight at such a young
Mm.
age on a popular show? Tell us a little bit about that. How that started.
Well, it's so funny because I get that question a lot. And, you always, I mean, I spent my life, and I think a lot of us have, especially I'm a recovering, I have alcoholism. Hey, what's up? But, I spent my whole life thinking that when I get over there, I'll be happy.
Okay.
And even as a kid, I was blessed and cursed with this gift of being able to like go on an interview and book a job. I really wasn't
Mhm.
out to get anything. I was just being a kid. And when you're a kid, you don't want anything. You want to kind of just bring joy to somebody's room. You just want to
Right.
play and be happy and, occasionally get candy from grown-ups, but that was about it. But
Mhm.
you know, I had an alcoholic, narcissistic, unsatisfiable ego mom. So, going in like that, whatever I did as a kid was never enough.
Okay.
So, when I got this job, it was fun because I got to meet Charles Schultz and Bill Melendez, and I got to be a part of this. I didn't even know what was going on. All I knew is I was going to be a cartoon character. That was my first interview. I got it, right? And it
Right.
sounded fun, but then I had to leave school. I couldn't be normal like everybody else, and I already felt abnormal because I was growing up in a crazy alcoholic home, so there was always that secret. And then
Okay.
people looked at me differently, and I didn't want that. I wanted to just blend in and,
Mm.
so what I always say, you can't judge a book by its cover, but,
Yeah.
when we see things that bring us quick joy, it's gonna go down just as fast. And
Okay.
that's kind of been my problem my whole life because I go to get high and then I come down. I go to get him and then I'm not interested. And then I go get down. And so, I spent my life looking at everybody's outsides and judging them because I felt so horrible on my insides.
And so this started way back when you was what, about 5 years old,
Yeah,
and yeah, and
yeah.
then how did you? First of all, tell us about the show. What's the name of this
Oh, well, the first thing I
popular?
got oh, this popular little show. So,
Yeah.
I went on it when my mom took us down to Hollywood because I lived in Los Angeles, and she said, "I'm gonna make you guys famous." And I didn't even know what that meant at 5. I'm like, "Is there candy involved? I'm in,"
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, I went on this interview with this guy named Charles Schultz, and if anybody knows who that is, he did this cartoon characters called the Peanuts characters, and they needed one more, um, cartoon voice, which was Charlie Brown's sister, Sally. Now, the funny thing in hindsight, Charles Schultz was like a depressant, and in
Hmm.
all of these cartoons, it was how to not be depressed. And I remember thinking when I got a little older, wow, he's like telling my childhood. It's very interesting, yeah, 'cause, so it was kinda cool, I would show up and they would, like I said, they give me candy. I mean, as a kid, that's all you really want. You just wanna meet people, have food, and because I don't even know what I'm doing. I know that my
Right.
mother tells me I'm making money, but I don't even know what money is at 5 and
Okay.
6 years old. All I know is this is kind of exciting. We go down to Hollywood, I get taken out of school. I go on interviews and, I did a
Mm.
bunch of commercials. I did like maybe 50 commercials. And at the time, there were only 4 television stations. So
Yeah.
I was on TV all the time. I looked like, Shirley Temple. So, and I
Hmm.
would be on TV and my friends would say, "Aren't you on that commercial?" And I'd say, "No," because I didn't
Mm.
treated differently. I didn't wanna be special. I
You
wanted to
want to be feel normal.
normal, whatever normal felt like, because my home life was not normal. There
Okay.
was always drinking and fighting and,
Mhm.
I talk a lot about that. My keynote is no longer leading with your wound because my
Okay.
wound is what drove me. I all
Okay.
my
I was
that
about to ask that. I was about to ask that. Do you think coming up as a star or whatever, do you think that led to your drinking or alcoholism, or was it mainly from the pain of your family?
Well, we always saying that it wasn't that I can't blame it on him, people, places, and things, right? It's like,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they say, is it your environment or is it the drinking? I think it's a compilation. When you grow up
Okay.
around trauma and abuse, your chances of anesthetizing and soothing that pain is
Mhm.
usually going to be drugs and alcohol. So in our rooms, in recovery rooms, if you say how many people were abused, 90% of the people will raise their hands. Is that the reason why they drank? I don't know. Was it the chicken or the egg? Is it gonna rain tomorrow? I don't know. I just gotta show up anyway. So I
Yeah.
gotta eat that same thinking, but, I think it added to it.
Okay.
From the outside, everybody thought that I had a great life, but that's that, how we do. We look good, we got the right car, we got the money, we got nobody knows we're dying. I'm dying inside. I was
Yeah.
dying inside before I drank.
Okay. During your teenage years, what was that like? You
Uh, Wild child. Good good girl turned bad. You know how we talk about, like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when you're
yeah.
good, and then the flip side? I was a good girl, and I still wasn't enough in my mother's alcoholic eyes. Because remember, the ego's never satisfied, so mom was never satisfied. It was never enough for her. I get that, I have the same illness. I want more
Okay.
and more,
Right.
more. I'll feel better
Right.
when never shows up. But so
Yeah.
I go. You know, I stopped I had, my mother and father, my mom had 7 kids. She didn't want any, but she had 7. She liked the feeling of being pregnant because everyone told her how beautiful she was, and when you're an alcoholic narcissist, that's a great line.
Mhm.
"You're beautiful. Have another one." Right?
Right. Right.
So, whatever that other one's gonna be, a kid, a whiskey and Coke, whatever it is. But,
mhm.
so my mom and dad ended up, lots of fighting, a lot of violence, and they broke up, and my mother wanted to get my dad back, so she met a guy in the late '70s who wore rose-colored glasses, and, he used to call himself a chemist, and he thought he was
Okay.
gonna win the Nobel Prize for cooking speed. So
Mm.
brought crystal meth into California in '73. And so all
Okay.
of a sudden, here I have this I'm my mother's got all the attention on me, and then she
Mhm.
meets this man, and you know how women can be, all of a sudden it's all about him. The
Yeah.
attention away from me. So good girl became bad girl. Bad
Okay.
attention's better than no attention. So, by the time I found alcohol and drinking, I didn't drink to feel good. I drank so I didn't have to feel, period.
To escape.
Yeah, 100%. It was from the second I drank alcohol, I was drinking like, I was blacking out. I got
Mhm.
alcohol every time. I was stealing cars. I got arrested for robbery. I got arrested for assault and battery. I got dropped out of high school. I went to 7 high schools. I dropped out in ninth grade. I went to YA, Dalton Battery. I left there. I went to a foster home. Now, I was like a child star, and all of a sudden I'm
Mhm.
living in a foster home in San Bernardino in California. And,
Yeah.
my life just felt it just blew up to ashes, and at that point, I didn't care, so I started attempted suicides, you know? I was
Yeah.
I went to a foster home, and the foster home was not the ideal place. It was because the dad wanted to have sex with me, that in a nutshell, and I was like,
Uh,
and I took off from there and lived on the streets when I was 15 and 16 and sold dope and sold myself, and I ended up at 21 years old. I lied to get into a nursing college because 'cause I'm a good liar. I'm an actress.
uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
know, or it's checks in the mail, diplomas in the mail, and I got
Yeah.
into college, and I wanted to save people because I wanted people to save me. So, I
Uh,
wanted to do things to get you to owe me because I didn't know what to do with my life, you know? I felt like
yeah.
I was in fear constantly of getting abused or thrown away or arrested. So, you know, we say driven by 100 forms of fear. I call that my Uber driver. If I got a lot
Okay.
of fear deep down inside of me, if I say I want a good life, well, that Uber driver, all it knows is fear. It's going, I'm going to take you to the ghetto. I'm going to take you to an abusive man. I'm going to take you to destitute, you know? And
Uh-huh.
so I didn't even know that I was leading with these original core wounds of I'm not enough. I'll never
Yeah.
get I'm a throwaway. I'm from the wrong family. I don't have an education. If I grew up with that, but God doesn't love me. I'm
Yeah.
in purgatory. Look at the sins I've done. I'm here to just live in hell. And
So
that
all this time you're just feeling that way and you just constantly drinking.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
"Oh, shut it up, shut it up, shut it up."
Did you look for attention or seek attention, a father figure through men? Do you have that experience?
Well, I joke around. I'm like, "Are you my daddy?" That was my biggest joke. I mean, it's so you gotta laugh at yourself, you know? If
Right, right.
myself too seriously, I'm gonna kill myself. My girlfriend, "Better check yourself before you wreck
Well, you
yourself."
wreck yourself.
Um, I when I first started with boys, I'm very open. I have a book that I'm getting published called Peanuts to Percocet: Notes on a Hollywood Childhood, and
Okay.
I basically bare my soul. And, my sponsor said to me, "Are you sure you wanna do that?" And I said, "You can't kill me. That girl's already dead. I'm not that
Yeah.
woman anymore." It's like, I look back at my past and I go, wow, God has saved me over and over and over.
Mhm.
When I found boys, and I'm not going to call 'em men, they're still not men, most of them, but when I found boys, I never got hugged and I never got kissed as a kid. I never got that. I love you. You're a good little girl. You're a good girl. So I call that my 11 seconds of love. Because in that
Okay.
moment, the boy would say, "Oh, you're so pretty, you're so sweet. Give me a kiss." And I get that intimacy
Mhm.
that I was craving so bad. And
Yeah.
so that little crumb was enough for me. So
Yeah.
I collected crumbs here and there, but I never stayed because I knew that if they found out who I thought I was, they would
Mhm.
leave. So I'm not going to give them a chance to get to know me.
So you rejected yourself before you can be rejected by them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. When
So
did when did you hit your bottom? Oh, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. You
no,
have something
so
else to say?
I had gone through a lot of stuff in my teens, and how I hit my bottom is I was on a fire escape. I was in a grand mal seizure from doing a bunch of blow and drinking and downers, and I looked up and I said, "If there is a God, please help me." And my grand mal seizures stopped. I would love to say, and then the lights pardoned and everything opened up and I became like lily white. No, no. What
Okay.
happened is my egg got cracked. That was the first day my egg got cracked, meaning there was light came in, and getting a little thirsty for that light, and
Okay.
instead of thirsty for this light. Like I wanted to feel good, but I didn't know how to get it.
Mhm.
'Cause I knew that the drinking and the using and the men and the partying and the stealing and the arrest, that wasn't feeling good. But
Yeah.
I knew that one moment, that strike of it stopped and there was a stillness for me, that
Mhm.
that piqued my curiosity. And
Okay.
so a few weeks later after that, I got loaded again because that's what we do. Because I
Yeah.
don't have a solution yet. And I was walking down Venice Boulevard down near the ocean, and I ran into a guy that I had gotten loaded. I bought some drugs from, copped some dope from him one time, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, what are you doing here? You look horrible." And of course, my mind said, "I want to date you because I want. Are you my daddy?" Right? And
Right, right.
he said, "Hey, do you want to come to an AA meeting with me?" And I was 21 years old. And like I said, what I heard him say is, "You want to be my girlfriend." Selective hearing.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he brought me to my first AA meeting, and I didn't see him for a year, and I kept going to find him. And and that's where the magic happened. You know, in in trauma, when you're coming from a trauma response, it's live or die, good or bad, black or white, nice,
Mhm.
Democrat, Republican, I don't care. It's so duality. Everything is so black. Oh, so there was no gray zone.
No gray zone. No gray zone.
No. All I know is I gotta do this or I'm gonna die. That's
Mhm.
all I know. I gotta get higher, I'm gonna die. I gotta see her, I'm gonna die. And
Yeah.
when I got into my first meeting, there was not that energy there. There was a buzz of, like,
Mm.
people were laughing, and I didn't think this was funny. I overdosed. I didn't think that was funny. And I was so used to living on my life is the worst, and either I'm incredible or my life is the worst. If you had my story, if you had my life, mine. So I'm like I'm speaking victimese at this point. I don't know
Mhm.
I'm doing it. All I know is it's the only language I know because I know how
Was
to
there
get.
hope for you when you got to your first meet? What was your thought process? Did you feel like you belong, or was you sitting there judging them like, this
Well,
ain't real?
I'm the Queen Majesty. I'm judge and jury anyway, but I remember it wasn't what I saw. It was the first feeling I felt was I I
Mm.
felt I felt safe. And that's what I was so starving to feel safe. And
Okay.
so that feeling of safety made me thirsty to have more safety. And I always say if you don't stay thirsty for God and the program, you're gonna get
Mhm.
thirsty for your old drink. You're
Mm.
gonna
I
you
like
gotta
that. I like
you gotta
that.
pick your thirsty, babe. 'Cause I'm always parched. It's either for a drink or it's for God. Pick it.
Okay.
So when I got sober, I was almost like you get whooshed into it. I know you experience, you go in a meeting, you're like, dude, wow, this is like, and I thought, oh, this is like a party without drugs. That's what I
Right.
thought. Seriously. 'Cause everybody was
Yeah.
happy. Everybody was,
Mhm.
and I almost got whooshed into it. It was like, it's like if a river broke and it just
Mhm.
brought me into the next part of the river and into the herd, as they call it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I stayed, so it enabled me. I found people to guide me and help me. I got sponsors immediately. I didn't know what I was
Mhm.
doing. I wasn't really working the steps as they said, but I did. Okay, I'll believe in God. Okay, okay. But
Yeah.
I would listen to how other people believed in God, and I thought, I kind of want that. How did they get there? 'Cause I
Yeah.
felt still so much shame. I hated my so much when I got sober. I
So
was
you came in open minded. You was willing.
I was willing, but I was still thinking, he was gonna fix it, the food was gonna fix it. Because at this point, I was bulimic, and I was
Mhm.
bulimic 10 times a day. I was still
Okay.
so self-hating myself, and my sponsor kept saying, "Just keep going until you like going,"
Mhm.
and I would do things like, "Okay, I'll take a commitment." But see, I call it the 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 recovery triangle. I call it the trauma triangle, but there's 2 of them. The
Okay.
trauma is like survival, self-protection, self-abandonment, like, that happens already. When
Okay.
we come into AA or any kind of program or therapy or church from trauma where you think everything's about live or die,
Mhm.
I gotta soothe seeing, tasting, touching, feeling, smelling, my senses. That's why they say things like, "Easy does it."
Yeah.
Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Like, these are survival modes that I gotta get into. Because the other one is like live or die. I gotta get it,
Yeah.
I get out, I gotta love you, I gotta hate you, I gotta and everything is about, "I'm gonna die if I don't do this."
Mhm. Mhm.
And so when you say to me, "Just come until you like it here," I started stabilizing. Like, I started showing up at the same meeting. So I felt and then I didn't feel so anxious all the time. I would look forward to going to my safe place. Remember, it was like when you first started going to AA meetings, you're like, dude, as soon as I stepped in, I was like, whew, there's my
Mhm.
balancing. There's my safety. I'm stabilized.
Okay.
That
Okay.
gets me out of my trauma response. I'm no longer, you get into the
Yeah.
first in the room, you're checking everybody out, like, who's that dude? Who's that person? Like I'm
Mhm.
sussing the room. All of a sudden, I'm in the room and I can breathe. I could
Yeah.
like all of a sudden let go. And I understand when people say, I got sober and my life got quieter, but my life got crazy because all of a sudden now I got to feel.
Okay,
And
let's talk about that. How you learn how to deal with them feelings now? 'Cause they say in recovery, they say two things about them feelings. One is good, you got your feelings back. The
the
other one
other,
is bad, you got your
yeah,
feelings back. Right,
right,
right.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
A lot of us, we tend to disassociate, which is we do things and we're like, whatever, they deserved it. It's like, I'm not
Mhm.
even right? I don't know what to tell you, so I beat I stole from him, I hurt him, I lied to him, I whatever, I ran him off the road, or I slept with his wife, whatever, he wasn't there. Like, we disassociate from our feelings, and all of a sudden, now that I don't have the drinking and using, and all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh my god.
Yeah,
I am a piece of crap, man. I am like, I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, I'm a whore, I mean,
yeah.
I'm lazy, I'm conniving, I'm manipulating, and
Well,
you want me to show up to life tomorrow again knowing all this information?" And
right.
and when sponsor used to say, "Put it on paper," and I'm like, "No way, that'll be evidence," you know?
Right,
Already been
right.
arrested a couple times, I don't wanna go down again.
Right.
So
How did you feel when you found out them things about yourself? What was that feeling um of your self image? What you think about yourself? Because it hurted me when I was start finding out. I said, "Boy, I'm no good. I ain't nothing." Right?
Well, thank God I had some incredible, people that I respected, and I didn't respect a lot of people because I didn't live in a world where we respected each other. Out in the world, in the streets, you don't respect people. But I heard these people talk about how, and I couldn't imagine God forgiving me. How could I how I couldn't forgive me? How could a God forgive me? But I looked around the room and my sponsor would say, "See everybody in this room? They've all been forgiven. That's why they're here." So, if you don't change everything about that woman, you're going to go back to that woman. And that was a tall order, you know?
Hmm.
I mean, the first 6 steps are dealing with that old character.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, ego, self, and alcoholism. Myself, I built a self way before I drank. I was always
Yeah.
scared. I didn't know if I was going to get food, if we were going to, the police were going to come at my house. If I didn't make the commercial, my mother would say, well, I guess your brothers and sisters are going to starve. Are you sure you're not going to make that commercial? So at 6 and 7, I was like, oh my God, I got to take care of the world. So no
Yeah. There's a lot
wonder
of pressure.
I was like, "I'm out, uncle. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blow my
Uh-huh.
life up. I don't want that life." So I
Uh-huh.
built this character self in fear, and then I find drugs and alcohol, and I cross that invisible line. I'm now my mother calls me the most defiant child, and I'm like, That's right, I'm number 1."
Yeah.
Defiant. I think I'm God. I got this. Nobody can help me. I'm a fault
Uh-huh.
finder. I'm in a hurry. I'm always in a hurry. Alcoholism, in a hurry. I suss the room out. I'm a judge. I'm a jury. Off with your head. I'm the
Yeah.
queen. You're the king. You're all bad. I'm incredible. And then the flip side is I'm the biggest piece of shit ever. So
Yeah.
then ego comes in, and the ego's gonna survive, it doesn't wanna die.
They don't
That's
want to die.
its survival techniques. "I got this,
Yeah.
I'm alright, I don't care." That's why I go, "Oh, so I hurt him, I don't care, whatever, he deserved it. Well, someone was gonna screw him under, at least I did it." I
Was it
just
hard for you to let that old self that you created, was it
oh,
hard for you to
oh,
let that
yeah,
self go?
yeah, it was a fight, the ego wants to be God, so it's gonna fight like the bitter end. But
Uh-huh.
the bigger my God became, the smaller my ego became.